Can you predict where the profession of orientation and mobility is going to go in the next 5 to 10 years? Probably not. But what we can do is look at what has been working in the past, what has not been working, and then do our best to be innovative and bridge that gap between where we are right now and where our profession is going to be. And that's based on our clients' needs. Today, we are talking with Leslie Hoskins and Ihrke from Leader Dogs, and they're coming on as a special part of our series that we like to do before our symposiums, where we allow you guys to get to know our presenters a little bit better and see the story behind why are they presenting on what they're presenting on. We're going to be talking about innovative strategies that Leader Dog is using to bridge that gap between their residential programs and when their clients actually start using their canes or working with their guide dogs in their hometowns. And you're also going to get to hear how their clients are doing, which I just find absolutely fascinating. We talk a little bit about the history of O&M, the foundations of O&M, and where we think this profession is going. If you're interested in joining the International Orientation and Mobility Online Symposium this year, you could just click the link down below. We will get you hooked up. But if you're an O&M specialist or somebody who is visually impaired and you want to know more about Leader Dogs, then that link is also in the description below. In this episode, you'll get to hear a lot of different stories, and you'll get to hear how Leader Dogs came up with this program, and then at the symposium, we will walk you through how you can begin to implement those new strategies that they are using. I mean, it just saves you so much time and energy rather than having to figure it all out on your own. And at the very end, Leslie and Ihrke will share where they think orientation and mobility is going and how you can take a step forward into that future for yourself. All right, let's get to the episode. Well, this is so exciting because this is one of our first full-length video episodes for the International O&M Online Symposium that we're going to be talking about. We have two presenters here. We want to give you guys a really in-depth look at who is actually presenting, what you're going to be learning about, and the challenges that they overcame to become the experts in their area. So it's not just like people who you go and you learn from them and you're like, why are they even talking about this? What credibility do they even have? Because everybody who presents with us at the symposium is an expert in their area. And as you guys know, you are the ones who actually choose our presenters. So it's really exciting to have them here. We've got Leslie Hoskins and Ihrke, right?
Correct.
Okay, here with us. So we definitely have met before, Ihrke. If I know how to say your last name.
No worries. It's not easy.
It's short, but all right. So I'd love to have our guests introduce themselves. Ihrke, we'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Ihrke. I am the Director of Client Strategy at Leader Dogs for the Blind and a certified orientation and mobility specialist. I've been at Leader for almost 27 years and been in orientation and mobility for nearing 20.
25 years. That's so incredible. I would love to have Leslie talk, but then I also want to come back to you, Ihrke, and ask you what changes you've seen in O&M.
Wow. When I entered orientation and mobility as a profession, there was so much that was happening in the way of growth. And I feel like our clients at that time really thought that I did orientation and mobility one time and I'm good for the rest of my life. And pretty quickly into my career, we were seeing so much changing with dynamics in of environments like traffic signalization and just new ways of traffic flowing and our clients' needs really developing and emerging, and them finding out that they really needed more, but but they had already done that and they couldn't possibly do that again. And we're like, no, we want to encourage you to come back and do more. And when we say orientation and mobility is lifelong, that means that we're here to walk the journey with you. And it's an ever evolving conversation, because I feel like for people that have received orientation and mobility once in their life, and maybe at that time where they're hearing maybe they need more, um, it's it's hard to understand why might I need more. And then we get into it, and there's that recognition and that aha moment. What? Oh, yeah, I don't have to limit my travel in this area or that area. And you might have some strategies that could help me with where I am now.
How O&M has changed over the past 25 years is a topic that we could definitely dive more into, and we probably will. Leslie, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name's Leslie Hoskins. I'm the Outreach Services and Community Engagement Manager at Leader Dogs for the Blind. I'm also a certified orientation and mobility specialist. I started here in 2014, so I've been here a little over 10 years as a comms, and did that for 6 full years before kind of switching into this role of outreach. And now for me, it's kind of the best of both worlds. I still get to teach and work with clients, but I also get to go out and spread the mission of Leader Dog and all of our free programs and services. So it's a win-win on my end.
And we've gotten to work together multiple times. You are absolutely such a joy. And one of the things that I really enjoy about your teaching style is that you have a way of bringing the information all the way from like the highest level. If somebody already has worked with leader dogs, if they've already sent a client to leader dogs or any other guide dog school and they've already been through the whole process, like lived it themselves, you have information for them. But if you also have information for people like me who, I went to one of the programs my first year teaching because I didn't get to go during my internship. Just I'm a little bit of an oddball like that. But then I've had like a student or two who was interested. And at those times, I would have them look it up and I would learn with them and follow their motivation because it's such a big undertaking. And because they were also still in school, I knew we had a few years before we could even get there. One of my students did end up getting a guide dog after he graduated high school. And then the other one, it really wasn't appropriate for them at all. And we were able to find that. But I really haven't had my hands in the process. And you were able to bring that information down to my level as well. And so I'm really excited to get to learn from you again this year. Now, this year, you guys are talking a little bit about alternative teaching programs, right? And we just talked a little bit about how O&M has changed. Can you share a little of how O&M is changing and why these alternative programs are so needed given the new climate?
Yeah, I think it's so important to continue and adapt to all clients' needs. What we're hearing a lot from people who are coming for our programs is they don't necessarily qualify for programs elsewhere, and or if they do and receive services elsewhere, it's not exactly the most effective way. Those are still great services, but sometimes more of a residential model where you can get so many hours in a condensed amount of time is really beneficial to build all those skills so that when you are receiving services, maybe more in that itinerant model of an hour here, an hour there, they can be way more beneficial because you've kind of built that foundational skill set. And so, what we have found through our program at Leader Dog, being that it's a 1 week model where we're able to, provide 25 to 35 hours of direct instruction, we're able to build up so much and be so complementary to additional services or organizations that are providing services. So I think we're constantly evaluating, we're listening to our clients, what are their needs, how how best can we help them? But we're also talking to professionals out there who are working in those models or in school districts. What is it that we can do to really be complementary to assist to make sure that clients and students are getting a well-rounded program that everybody is benefiting from? So one of our goals is to constantly be asking questions, to go to these conferences and learn from everybody else what is going on out there. Sometimes we're in our little guide dog world bubble, and so it's really good for us to continue, asking questions and learning about the real world problems so that we can be that complementary service and work together collaboratively.
Nice. Ihrke, did you have anything you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
mean,
add?
Leslie really said it perfectly. Um, yeah, and I think for some certified O&M specialists, what we're hearing as an example is their caseloads are large. They know that there's a wait list of people that need their services. They don't have a team of people or even people that they can refer to close to them, and they need help. They feel like, maybe that they're doing their clients a disservice because they're not able to get them to where the client really would like to be with their travel. Um, and and we're the perfect solution to partner with, to collaborate with, to support those orientation and mobility specialists, agencies, and ultimately the client, um, because that's what it's really all about, is meeting their needs and helping them figure out what independence looks like to them in their travel.
What I hear from both of you is a client-centered approach without your personal or agency egos. And oftentimes, as much as I love our fields, we can silo ourselves and say, nope, these are my clients, and then push back and these are your clients, and not bridge that gap between them. Because as you said, Leader Dogs is a 1 week program. It is very different style of learning. You have to be in a different headspace, and you're also learning very specific skills in a very specific environment, and not necessarily going to get your milk from your grocery store at the time that you get it, where those itinerant practices can meet that need. However, especially as adults, and if there are adults who are older and they're not going back into the workforce, we all know that they get less money and less funding for orientation and mobility in general. And so what you guys are saying really seems to bridge the gap between your residential program. And are you guys starting itinerant programs as well? Is that what I'm hearing? Talk to me a little bit more about
Yeah.
that. I'd love to hear like the why and maybe even a little bit of the what. And then, of course, we'll get into the what and the how at the symposium.
Sure. A residential program is great for building generalized skills for a variety of environments. We all know that a sidewalk is a sidewalk is a sidewalk, but for some people, their sidewalk is the only sidewalk, and they need that specialized instruction there. And we for a very long time we said, gosh, this person could be so much more successful if I could just have a couple of days at home with them, or right, because I know that they're going back to a desert of services in their home area. And we've been fortunate enough that we've said it a lot, and we have a team that really believes that, and they are also hearing the client and want to support that. So now we have a remote orientation and mobility specialist, Barry Stafford. He lives in Texas and travels from there twice a month to people's home environments. And it may be 3 days that he's working on intensive orientation and mobility with them to build routes, to put things into place, or it might be longer than that. But we also know, that itinerant model works to meet the needs of people that are balancing maybe, having someone to care for at home, or a work obligation that they can't fulfill by being away for a week, but maybe they could step away from that for a few hours if somebody came to them. So it's growing. That need is growing. Coming here to Leader has its benefits in connecting with other people that are going through the same experiences and building friendships to last really a lifetime to support you through that. But then that in-home, what we refer to it as, that in-home delivery or itinerant delivery is so beneficial to the folks that really need that intensive, concentrated in their area to meet whatever need that is for them.
So with that, and you guys, like, if one or the other wants to piggyback, just do so at the end of the other person. It sounds like what Barry's able to do is to take the leader dog philosophies and teachings, because he's employed through you guys, and impart those into your clients as they are traveling in their actual home environments, which we all know that generalization is really tricky. And so when people are flying themselves out to you and then possibly getting a guide dog for the first time, their lives change incredibly. And it's probably like having a kid, right? People say all the words when you're in your 20s and they say all the things, but like you don't actually know until you actually have the child in your house. And even at the what's it called? Even in the hospital, right? It's different. Like you have this child, but like you also have nurses and you have this, and your life isn't your actual life. And then you get home and you have to figure out how to handle a screaming baby at 3 a.m. Just like when you get home, then you have to figure out how to work with your guide dog at 3 a.m. and in your own streets, and where to take your guide dog, when it needs to be relieved, and all of those small things. So Barry's able to do that. And I'm sure he's also able to work with their orientation and mobility specialist if they have one. As we know, adults don't always have a consistent orientation and mobility specialist. Now, do they have to go through the guide dog program, the residential program, before they receive services itinerantly, or are these services also available strictly itinerant? And do you have to have a guide dog from Leader Dogs? Like, how?
No, so that's a great question, Kassy. So this is really just strictly orientation and mobility, which does not have to be tied to guide dog. So we're talking just O&M. And then again, that nice part of Barry coming to someone's home environment to provide orientation and mobility training is that he can also work with that person's family to maybe do a little role release in how they can support independence as that person travels in their home environment, and give the family member or friend or their support network the confidence that the client has the skill, so they aren't a barrier for our clients, really reaching that next milestone of independence. And then, of course, if Barry has that opportunity to connect with their orientation and mobility specialist or another blind rehab professional that person is connected to, then he wants to do that. And while he's out there, he's also trying to, establish a meaningful contact with an agency that may be close by, or with a Lions Club that, supports our organization, but is so grassroots in the community, and wants to help people in their community. So he might be doing a presentation for them or something like that too. So again, if they know more people, they can spread the word that our services are here, because that's probably one of the biggest barriers too, is just the access to knowing that the service is even available, whether it's in your home environment or traveling across the country to leader.
So with Barry going into their homes, I think that's really important to get the family involved. As you know, we're looking at culturally responsive O&M these days and really tailoring our teaching to what that learner does and experiences. And a few years ago, Dr. Conchita Recoleta came on and shared with us about how her program, when they go into the community, this is O&M, but also VRT, for example, instead of making like a casserole dish that they would at the VA, then they teach the clients how to make like quesadillas. And so Barry's able to go in and say like, oh, well, you guys get, this kind of milk from this part of the grocery store and not cow milk, or you guys do it like this, and then tailor that. And Ihrke, you also mentioned that allows the families to understand what the learner can do. I call it the Robert Banner effect. I think it's Robert Banner. You remember? Okay. So there's a story in 1954. I'm going to say his name wrong. So let me see if I can look it up while we're doing this. The first man to run a 4-minute mile. Nobody believed that humans had the physical capability to run a sub 4-minute mile. And then 1954, Robert Banner did. And then after that, people saw that it was possible, and they then like quickly surpassed him. He didn't hold that world record for very long at all. And now a sub 4-minute mile is actually a standard for running athletes, whereas just 70 years ago, we didn't think it was physically possible. And then once we see somebody do it, then we can really push ourselves. And I think that happens with families a lot, because a lot of times services are so segregated. Even in the schools, I often go in and I pull my student out. A push-in model isn't as common as a pull-out model. So when you're pushing in and the family can actually see this, kind of like, when we did it a lot during COVID and families could actually see it because they had to, our clients' generalization skills got a lot better. Do you guys have a story of somebody who was really struggling in their community and then got your services and how they're doing now? I would love to hear like, I don't know, like a case study or even maybe the first client or why you even started this program in general. There's got to be some sort of like juicy story behind that.
Sure, I'd be happy to share one. The first really case study that comes to mind is a woman in her 30s. She had lost her vision suddenly and was facing some barriers getting services locally to her. Had gotten some, but it was very intermittent. And she was feeling really trapped. She found out about Leader Dog, our orientation and mobility program, from her O&M specialist, who again was seeing that she was feeling trapped and needed more. She came to Leader for O&M, participated in our 1-week program, and made leaps and bounds progress. The O&M specialist that she worked with really saw her potential, but she was so early in her journey in learning how to use the cane and just not had a ton of life experience or exposure, that she just needed some more individualized attention. She had some pretty good generalizable skills, but her environment was very nuanced. It was a tourist town, and but she lived a little bit more rurally, so it was complex in the way that it was very multi-environment. So she went home and practiced a little bit and was practicing. This woman was so motivated to make things happen, but she was experiencing some challenges and didn't have a great support system to go out with her. They were actually being like, no, don't do that. We don't want you to do that. You make us nervous. And in a follow-up call, the O&M specialist asked her, would you like if we could come and support you in your home area? And she said yes. So Barry went out and worked with her for a week. They tackled so much. And this woman really just practiced so much. She came to love just going for walks. She got out there more than ever, really became, a role model. She decided that she was interested in exploring the option of a guide dog, and had a follow-up call with Barry, I think 6 months after she had worked with him in her home area. And she said, I'm just submitting my videos for consideration to guide dog. And at this point, like, if it works, great. And, of course, this is my goal and this is what I want to do. This is what I'm really interested in. But I'm okay with my cane skills too. They get me to where I want to go, and I know I'm going to have to keep them up. And she's like, so whatever the outcome is, it is. And she was just okay with it. And it was just so fulfilling for all of us to see her grow and gain in experiences, and know that the tools were an option, and that it shouldn't be one or the other. Like, she just really grasped the concept of both tools could be great. And I'm going to work really hard for this and make it my lifestyle.
And there's no better feeling, really, than watching somebody's identity change because they can do something now that they couldn't do before. And granted, she worked for it, but I knew that there was some sort of juicy story. Like, agencies don't just start programs. There had to be some sort of heartfelt thing behind why you guys are really stepping out of the box. This isn't something that you guys have done really, like, it's just not what you are known for. And so it really had to have taken some imagination and engineering on the operations aspect and the funding aspect and all of that to make this dream come to life. So I'm so glad to know about this woman. And if you are watching or listening and you are her, congratulations. But if you are somebody who wants that independence, and maybe you're like, oh, but it's not for me, or maybe you are somebody who has a visual impairment and you just aren't sure, like you kind of want it, but you aren't sure of your own self and your own capabilities. I encourage you guys, or your orientation and mobility specialists, if you're the O&M watching, to reach out to these wonderful people at Leader Dog. Can you guys give a quick tell us where to find you? And then I actually have a really cool follow-up question after.
Yeah, this is Leslie. You can find us at leaderdog.org. You can also give us a call at 888-777-5332. I do have a couple other stories too about like why coming to campus is beneficial too, and I'll go quickly. Of course, in-home is fantastic too, but just two examples of where people have really benefited from being here. One example is we hear all the times from clients is that the hardest street to travel down is the one in front of their house, right? It's their own. It can be really challenging. It can be really scary. It can be really intimidating to walk outside of your house with a cane. If you're newly blind and you're just starting to use a mobility device, right? Telling your neighbors, telling your community, telling everybody that you have a visual or low vision or no vision anymore can be really, really challenging. And so to come to Leader Dog first and build those skills, build that confidence, and then go back home and walk that street with a little bit more confidence. I can think of one individual specifically who's 37 from the West, and he was having a really, really hard time, really struggling with his confidence, with being independent. He had kids. He didn't want them to see him struggling. And so he was just kind of not doing anything, right? He came to Leader Dog for a week, spent that time really building his confidence in his independent travel skills, working on his specific goals, and then went home to continue to do that. And then he was also able to work with his local state O&M specialist to build those and generalize those skills. But he felt so much more confident walking on his street, having already known the skills. And so that was a really fantastic example of why kind of stepping away sometimes is beneficial. Another example is actually my very first week at Leader Dog. I worked with a young girl, a teen, and she had worked with the same O&M specialist her entire life. And while they had a good relationship, sometimes you need an outside perspective, right? Like, and a lot of times too, the parent was stepping in on lessons. So if the O&M specialist asked her to go to independently into the grocery store and find biscuits, well, then the teen was kind of calling her mom and being like, "Mom, this is ridiculous. Please don't help me," that kind of thing. And the mom would go and get her from the lesson. And so that was really challenging for everybody, right? The O&M specialist, the teen, the parent, nobody was really kind of seeing collaboratively. And so the teen then came to us, and it was my first week of O&M, and I asked her to do the same things, right? I held her to that same standard. I pushed her to do those appropriate things at her age, and she couldn't call her mom. So she had to go do them. And what she found was that she could do it, and she could be an independent traveler. And so that week was so fantastic, and I was able, with her permission and her mom's permission, to talk to that local O&M specialist. And so we were able to talk through strategies and collaborate in that way. And I said, "You know what, I really, push those same things that you were talking about." And she found such independence. She went home, she then continued to work with her O&M specialist, built her skills, was so much more confident, ended up coming back. Her goal was a guide dog ultimately. She went off to college, and she did so many things. But I don't know that she would have done that had she not had an outside perspective. And it was, nobody was necessarily doing anything wrong, right? It just, you needed somebody else to tell her or to put her in those situations. So those are just a couple examples too, where it is really beneficial to sometimes step away from that comfort zone, and come get some different perspectives, be in a different, safer environment, if you will. And so that has been really beneficial too.
Another one of my favorite stories that Leslie has told me recently is she was presenting at a national conference and sharing about options and how we can help individuals. And this person happened to be working in our profession and heard Leslie share about the options. And when she got to the airport, she started filling out her application. She said, "I need to do this for myself. I don't necessarily want to learn from the people that I work with on the day to day. While I trust them, it's a different kind of vulnerability in learning." And so again, she flew across the country, came to Leader Dog, and also, that gave her the advantage of then going back and sharing with the folks that she works with that are also service providers to say, "Hey, I did this. And these are the benefits of sharing this opportunity with our clients to bolster their skills," and how she felt that collaboration could really extend into to their services as well.
What incredible stories. I love hearing how Leader Dog really has touched the lives of so many people, and and how you guys have been able to do that. I agree that there is such a level of vulnerability of being a student in your own hometown, or even when you mentioned stepping outside. Yeah, like we all probably have nosy neighbors, right? Who just, that they're watching, and then you have to present yourself again. It's stepping into a different identity. And even as forward thinking as the United States is, we still don't fully see people with visual impairments as full whole people. It's still considered a disability for a reason. And it kind of makes me wonder, we've talked a little bit about where orientation and mobility has come, over the past 25 years, and what you guys at Leader Dog are doing now. I'm curious about your professional and just personal perspectives. What do you think is going to be happening with orientation and mobility in the next 5 to 10 years? If we could just take a guess.
I think in the next 5 to 10 years for O&M, we're going to see more and more technology just being involved. There's so many different devices out there. And while there's, I don't believe, a fix it button, right? There's not one piece of technology that's just going to make everything better, and you're not going to need those foundational skills. I do believe there are some really cool things that are happening and coming out that are really good accessories, right? Like the meta glasses. those are really cool and can be really beneficial if you can use them appropriately and if the technology is going to maintain consistent. I think also, there's different wearable devices and stuff, but I also think it's interesting how a lot of these devices are asking the O&Ms, right? Reaching out to the professionals and saying, like, what information do you want to know on the educational side of things? So thinking about the NOAA by biped, it's a wearable device, but you can also connect to an app, and then the app can also tell the O&M specialist different data points on objects they're missing or getting, or all of these different things. With, we know in O&M having quantitative data is very challenging sometimes. And so I think this idea of connecting more with technology, using it again as a secondary device or accessory for clients to just make things easier, right? There are so many challenges to having low vision or being blind. And so, any little thing that's going to make something easier, I think it's so exciting to consider and look into. I know it's exciting as a professional to learn about things, how we can incorporate it into the travel. So, that's something I'm really excited about. And I know that has been the last 20 years. Technology continues to go and grow and grow. But it does seem, especially in the last couple of years, there's some really promising moves. So, and like Navalens, right? Like if we can all get on board kind of with the same technology and support it, it seems really exciting.
I would agree that technology is going to provide us so many opportunities. And from a profession where our primary tool is a cane, we do have to embrace it because we we owe it to our clients to really share with them the risks and benefits of all of it, and the importance of using a primary mobility tool to complement these exciting accessories. I also see, kind of in that technology aspect, things changing so much, like the Waymo and self-driving cars. We're going to have to think differently with orientation and mobility in these. It's not the same old taxi or Uber. And okay, where is this dropping me off at, so that I can find the door to the store to get into? It's a whole different kind of orientation and mobility when you don't have the driver to give you that starting point. It will be very, very interesting to continue to adapt and navigate what all of this looks like. Also, I think orientation and mobility is going to change a lot because our clients are changing. The statistics are out that the population is growing. We have more people to serve, and we need to find and continue to share with people about orientation and mobility as a career opportunity, and not just orientation and mobility, but also professions within vision rehabilitation. So I hope we have this surge of folks joining our forces that we can support, and in supporting our clients too.
Those are both really lovely and very positive outlooks, you guys. Right now in our field, as you know, there's like this hunkering down of scarcity, right? Like, oh, the OTs are trying to take our jobs, and like, oh, like the ACVRP versus AER, and like, oh, and we're siloing ourselves even more. we're so small. We cannot afford to think negatively or to be in scarcity mode, because whatever you think about will come. And what I hear from both you, Ihrke, and Leslie, is such positivity. And yes, we're going to continue to grow. And yes, we're going to continue to change. And yes, we are going to continue to have challenges as a profession, because we're a little bit of an oddball of a profession. There aren't that many of us, and the job pockets are sporadic, and it can be difficult to find like a full-time orientation and mobility position and you can't just like spin the globe, put your finger on a spot and say, I'm going to get a job there. It doesn't always work that way. And so we have unique challenges that most professions don't face. But as a collective, what I see is that there are going to be people who understand that we can no longer live in our silos. We have to work together, and we have to work together in a really positive way that allows for our growth and our expansion. And we're going to have to leave our limiting beliefs behind. And the people who are willing to leave our limiting beliefs behind and embrace the technology, Netherlands is coming to present at the symposium, and embrace the new things that are coming down the pipe, staying grounded in K News, right? Because the interesting thing about orientation and mobility is, like, I'm super forward thinking, but people will come to me and say, oh, I have this product idea, or oh, I have to do this project. Engineers in college, a lot of them, they are so heartwarming and they want to do well, but they have no clue. And I'm like, we figured that out at the beginning. And it's just a cane. All they you're not actually replacing anything more than literally the metal stick. So, and to have technology where the owners and the founders are coming to us to say, we do want to help. How can we help? And the O&M profession really bonding with those people and pairing up with them. Those are the technologies that do succeed, because yes, we do want them to be accessories. And I love the fact that you guys were super positive about that. Okay, one last question as we wrap up is going to be, if you could give one piece of advice to our audience to help them to take a step forward being better orientation and mobility specialists, what would you say?
I think I would say to continue to learn, right? Like, just take any opportunity to learn from others. I think I love this field so much is because you could work with, 10 different clients with macular degeneration with the exact same acuity and all of that information, but they're all still going to travel differently and use different devices and techniques and tips and tricks and all this stuff. And so having as many tools in my toolbox as I can is going to only help them. And so I love the opportunity to work with interns and hear their language or terminology, or practicum students, or follow another O&M specialist. You can steal their language, you can see how they interpret something, and it's just making me a better instructor. So just on the street, that side of things of stealing from others, and I mean that in the best way as a compliment, but also, right, going to these conferences as any opportunity that you can get to learn from others and learn about the new technologies or philosophies. And our field is still so young, right? And so it's so interesting to see the research being done at the university levels on constant contact and 2-point touch, right? Like, yeah, we've been using these techniques for so long, but we're just now kind of getting to the point where we're studying them in a scientific way to see, are these effective? And so all of that is so interesting and constantly giving us new things to use. Like, right, flagging used to be waving the cane up and down, all this big dramatic stuff. And now we're learning like a step and a pause with a hand is way more impactful. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go to a conference to hear that presentation, or if I wasn't like collaboratively working with a team. And I know that's really challenging in those itinerant models when you're out there by yourselves working sometimes. But if you can kind of create that cohort, that team network a little bit, so that you can brainstorm and reflect with others, I think is really beneficial. But just continue to learn, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, ask questions. It's always good to have mentors in the fields. I know I certainly do. I learned from Ihrke in her years. Barry Stafford has been doing this for a really long time. I love stealing their language and picking up on things that they're doing. And again, still those newcomers, the interns, right? They're fresh out of university. They've got the newest information. So I think that can be really beneficial. And lastly, I'll say learning from clients. They know best, honestly. Picking up what they're using, or how they're using their language to describe something, that is the best information we can take. So that'd be my advice.
Wow, Leslie, that was like, I mean, you took the words kind of right out of my mouth. I'm just going to expand on it a little bit in saying that, I would encourage listening, right? Listening to really meet those needs. And then in listening, reaching out to collaborate, with the community of professionals. There's a lot of gray area in everything that we do as shared professionals, but is there some tip or trick that I can learn from a parallel professional that will help me in my practice, and in turn in helping me help my client? And and building that bigger network. I always challenge myself when attending a conference, in sitting in a session, and how can I apply what I'm learning from this session to what I'm doing in my role now, or sharing it with a colleague. Is there a different model? Just because we've done things the way we've done them, does that mean that we need to continue to do it that way? Does it mean that, we couldn't try something new, or in what capacity? Maybe I can try it with a client and see how it works. Don't be afraid to take a leap to try it.
I think in the words of Barry Stafford, he says, step back and shut up. And sometimes I think that wraps it up so perfectly, whether that be with a client, with another colleague, just give some space.
Thank you both so much for all of your expertise and sharing with me. This conversation has been incredible. Ihrke, with what you said, and Leslie, it reminded me of this quote that I read in a book, and I just looked it up. And the quote is, "What got you here won't get you there." And oftentimes, as professionals, we can say, oh, this has been working. And we don't know what's on the other side of trying something new. And I think we're also very afraid to fail. I mean, nobody wants to fail, right? We don't know if we're like failing because we did it wrong, then we have to go back to the drawing board. That quote is attributed to Marshall Goldsmith. I don't think that I actually heard it from him. I read it in a different book, but what got you here won't get you there is something that I like to live by. And it sounds like you guys are doing that too. While we're still recording, I do have a correction already. I knew I had said his name wrong. It's not Robert Banner in 1954. It was Robert Bannister. So I have corrected myself officially. And now we can end this podcast. Thank you both so much for being here. I really appreciate getting to know you guys and getting to learn from you at the symposium. Aren't they absolutely incredible people? I loved getting to talk with Leslie and Ihrke today. It's just such a joy for me to be able to bring these presentations to you so that way you can stay on the cutting edge of what's coming down the pipe in orientation and mobility, and so you can consistently teach impactful lessons to your learners and be in the know, be in the room with the people that are doing big, big things, and the people who aren't afraid to fail, the people who are leaning into innovation, and the people who are looking at O&M not from such a scarcity model, but an expansive, where are we going? We're just in the baby stages of this profession, not like, is our profession dying? We really want those positive voices, and those are the people in the room at the O&M Online Symposium. Last chance, if you are interested, grab your ticket now before registration closes. The link will be down below, and if you're catching this video at an off season, don't you worry. If you click the link below, it will take you to a priority list, so you'll be the first to know when things come down the pipe in the future.